Chapter 7. Travel Diary. The sound of the alarm clock wakes Tom. He's in his room. Sunlight is already streaming through the gaps in the curtain, shining onto his face. Panicked, he looks down at his body. Everything seems normal. He rushes to the bathroom mirror and stares at his reflection. The same old Tom, just like always. And only 2 arms. Incredible. That wasn't a dream. It couldn't have been. He remembers everything. The details, the smells, the tastes. Did he really go to another world? Already dressed and ready for school, he heads downstairs for breakfast. As always, his mother is preparing everything in the kitchen, but the table is already set, and the sweet aroma of freshly baked cake greets him. Tom sits in his usual spot and grabs a slice of cake. His mother turns to greet him, but stops mid-motion, mouth slightly open, before saying anything. Her son seems different, but figuring out exactly what gives her that impression is difficult. Tom, good morning. Did you comb your hair differently today? No, that's not it. Morning, Mom. I didn't change anything, same as always. Like I'd waste time styling my hair. It never stays anyway. He starts eating. She'll never find the answer, but her son really is different. A change impossible to see or explain. After all, today Tom is blessed. Mom, he starts. The mage had said something strange about him only being alive because of him, and that his parents had the answer. Yes, son. When I was little or something, did I almost die? She looks at him puzzled. Of course not. Where'd you get that nonsense? I don't know. I had a weird dream and got curious. Which was true. Of course not, honey. We've always taken such good care of you. You were our miracle. I'd never let anything happen to you. What do you mean? Tom feels there's more behind her words. I guess I never told you, but after I had Tiana, I thought I wouldn't be able to get pregnant again. So you being here really was a miracle. You never mentioned that. His father walks into the kitchen and, after messing up Tom's hair, hugs his wife and sits down for breakfast. As soon as he finishes eating, the boy grabs his things and heads out to school. Some of his questions have been answered, but a lot is still shrouded in thick fog. Tomas doesn't know what's hunting him, or why. He suspects it has something to do with the mage parasitizing his mind. He also doesn't understand the connection between the mysterious places and his evil twin. The strange alley, the mansion, the hidden room in the mall. What's the link between them? He hopes time will eventually answer that. For now, he just wants to pull more information out of his own head. Rafa joins him on the way to school. The redhead notices the effects of the blessing on his friend, but chooses not to say anything. It's not in boys' nature to talk about each other's looks, unless it's to make fun of them. Tom also thinks it's best not to bring anything up until Susie is with them. That way, he won't have to repeat himself, something he really doesn't like. They quickly arrive at school, already busy with students entering, getting ready for class to begin. Mandy is in her usual spot, listening to the chatter of her entourage and being fawned over as always. When her ex, Tom, just to remind you, shows up, she tries not to look at him, but something about him draws her in. She can't even hide it. Tomas seems to glow. Not physically. Without thinking twice, she leaves her friends behind and walks over to Tom and Rafa, who are already climbing the school's entrance stairs. Tom, she calls out a little breathless. Running or even walking fast is not her strength. Mandy, good morning, everything okay? He asks, slightly concerned. He had doubts she'd speak to him again so soon. Good morning. She takes a deep breath to recover. Everything's fine. I just wanted to say if something's going on, you can count on me. We're still friends, right? Her smile is a mix of fake confidence and embarrassment. Of course, Mandy, he replies, surprised. Thanks. If I need help, I'll let you know. That wasn't normal. Something's off with her. Tom only suspects it. Rafa is sure. All right. See you in class? She turns back to her group, hoping she didn't blush. What was that? Even she doesn't know. Mandy grabs her backpack under the stunned gaze of her followers. On a normal day, that would have been the event of the year, but today everyone understands the Queen's reaction. Tom gives off a distinct, unexplainable aura. Even so, Mandy spends a long time cursing herself. She doesn't want to get involved with him again. After all, she hasn't forgotten the bizarre scene she saw in the mall, but she had never been impulsive like that before, acting without thinking. And now there's no going back. If her ex reaches out for any reason, she'll help him, because her word is not something to be ignored. Tom and Rafa exchange confused looks. They didn't expect that from Mandy. As soon as they enter the inner courtyard, they spot Susie. With the trio together, the discussion about what to do next begins. "Morning, guys." Tom: "Glad to see you looking better. Yesterday you looked like you'd lost a screw." Susie comments while sitting on one of the benches in the central courtyard. She also notices something different about her friend. Her face even turns a bit red, but not enough for the two clueless boys to notice. "Yeah, a lot happened and I need to talk to you guys." Tom sits down too. "What do you mean a lot happened? From yesterday to today? That's not enough time for a lot to happen," Rafa says, incredulous. "I'll try to sum it up before class starts." Tomas does his best to explain everything that happened in his dream, from the mage to his exploration of Bushkar. If they hadn't experienced all the recent weirdness together, the boy would have been tossed in a loony bin. They both listen closely, trying to connect the new info to past events. The bell rings just before Tom finishes his story. They'll have to continue during the break. Susie heads off to her classroom while the boys go to the athletic field. First period today is PE. After a quick roll call and some warm-up exercises, the teacher tells the class to run laps around the court until the end of class. This is the first training for a small charity marathon happening in a few weeks. Most students just walk, but Rafa, always enthusiastic, tries to convince Tomas to burn more energy. "Come on, Tom, let's see how far we can go." "Seriously? Then I'll have to shower in the locker room." "What a drag. Stop whining. You need to work on your fitness. What if we need to run from some freaky monster or something?" The redhead makes a good point. If they're ever chased, Tom's getting eaten first. Not that Tom is out of shape, but Rafa is far more athletic. "Ugh, fine. Let's go," he grumbles but starts to pick up the pace. Class goes on and the two boys keep chatting during the workout. Thomas goes into more detail about the other world and how the city feels alive. Without realizing it, Tom keeps up with Rafa's pace. It only hits him when his friend compliments him. After the shower he didn't want to take, Tom stands in front of his school locker looking down at his legs. He should be tired, but he's not. Then he notices a faint glow on his arm. He can't quite focus on the source. It keeps fading, but it feels like someone's sprinkled golden glitter on him. When he asks Rafa about it, his friend says there's nothing on his arms, probably just light reflecting off a still damp patch. But that's not it. Somehow, Car's blessing followed him from the other world. During the next few classes, Tom manages to keep up with the content and solve problems more easily. His brain is operating in high-performance mode, and Car flipped the switch. The euphoria he felt when he was blessed now seems like a dream. He feels no emotion toward the deity anymore. Still, if his performance continues, that might change. At least, that's what he thinks while working on math problems. Deep down, though, Tomas isn't so sure. How much of this sudden clarity is really Car's divine blessing? And how much is the mage's knowledge bleeding into his mind? Either way, he's making the most of it. So this is what it feels like to be really good at something. The last class before the break is physics, and the teacher enters right on time as the bell finishes ringing. On this particular day, he doesn't feel like putting in much effort. His head is stuck in a book he's been reading, so he decides to use the class for grading assignments so he can read in peace later. He quickly writes a series of problems on the board, culminating in the classic question about trains leaving different cities and when and where they'll meet. He hopes this last question will keep students busy until the bell rings again. Figuring out the meeting time should be easy. The tricky part is the location. Honestly, he doesn't expect any of them to get it right. After writing everything, he sits at his desk and starts grading the pending assignments. Everyone stays quiet, working through the problems. Tom had studied this topic before and had a hard time memorizing the formulas. But now, as he works through the calculations, he starts to understand why the equations are built the way they are. Everything is clearer. He already knew the material. He just hadn't realized it. Before long, he's tackling the last question. A train leaves New York at 12 p.m., traveling at 100 kilometers per hour toward Philadelphia. At the same time, another train leaves Philadelphia at 1 p.m., traveling at 120 kilometers per hour toward New York. The distance between New York and Philadelphia is 150 kilometers. What time do the trains meet and at what location? Tom stares at the question for a moment, thinking how ridiculous it is. Not because it's hard, but because it's such a cliché. Like the teacher watched some old school movie and copied the idea. Overly precise math. The excitement of being able to solve it quickly fades. Now it's just boring, like always. After calculating that the trains would meet at 1:13 p.m., he pulls up a map on his phone to locate the meeting point. Based on the distance travelled, he settles on Princeton, New Jersey. Probably right. And if it's not, who cares? Tomas seems to be the only one finished. Rafa's working through the questions at a good pace, and when he notices Tom looking around, he assumes his friend is just slacking off. To avoid drawing too much attention, Tom stays quiet in his seat. He starts mentally revisiting the streets of Bushkar and Trat, how everything had been surreal and fun. He remembers how the spell was taught to him, and the tingle of magical energy in his body. Is it really possible to cast spells for real? With his eyes closed, he imagines a line extending from his hand, across the classroom, under the door, through the hallway, and up the stairs until it reaches Susie's classroom on the second floor. As soon as he visualizes her, he feels truly connected to her. His body then gets hit with an overwhelming pressure. The magical energy around him doesn't brush gently against him. It crashes with the force of an ocean, pressing against his bones. It hurts. A lot. In a panic, Tom thinks of something to finish the spell. The image that comes to mind is Susie handing him a soda. Just like that, everything returns to normal. The external pressure vanishes, but his whole body aches, especially the hand that cast the imaginary line, now bearing small cuts at the fingertips. The bell rings, marking the end of class. Everyone turns in their answers and heads out for break. Tom's page is marked with a few drops of blood. He couldn't stop the bleeding in time. "You all right, Tom?" the teacher asks, pointing at the red stains. "All good. Just a paper cut, but it's already healing." "Okay, but if you need to, go to the nurse's office. Don't just walk around like that." "Will do." The friends leave the classroom and head to the same courtyard spot from earlier. Suddenly, Tomas is shoved from behind and nearly falls over. "Here's your soda, you idiot!" Susie is furious. They've never seen her like this. "Whoa! What happened?" Rafa takes a step back, not wanting her wrath to spill over onto him. "Sorry. At least it looks like it worked." Tom apologizes, a sheepish grin on his face. "You'll be sorry." I nearly peed myself from the scare. She kicks his leg as he tries to steady himself. "What the hell did you do exactly?" She starts walking, expecting them to follow her to the courtyard benches. "I did it like in my dream." I didn't think it'd actually work. He sits, opening the can. Without realizing it, a spray of soda hits him right in the face. "Serves you right. Maybe now you'll think twice before pulling that again." Susie finally calms down. Rafa doesn't say a word. He just bursts out laughing at his soaked friend. "Ugh." Tom starts wiping his face. "I'm not going to complain. I can see I deserved that." He uses his shirt to dry off. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a spare. "You really did." Susie grabs the soda from the bench and takes a sip while Tom cleans up. "It was really weird." "What exactly happened?" Rafa asks. "I don't know. I was just watching the class like normal and then suddenly I couldn't see a thing, and then this idiot's voice pops into my head yelling for a soda. I jumped out of my chair like some fool waking up from one of those falling dreams." Everyone laughed at me. She gives Tom a light punch in the arm, one that actually stings. "Sorry again. I had no idea it'd be like that." When I did it the first time, it felt different. He takes a sip of soda. His hand and his whole body starts hurting even more. Even with everything we've been through these past few days, it's hard to believe. Rafa wishes he'd seen things with his own eyes. No kidding. And we still don't know what's after me. I'd understand if you guys wanted to back off. I don't want to put anyone in danger. It's too late for that. We're in this with you, Susie assures him. If I knew what it was, I could help. But we can't do much without any info. Didn't that guy say you two would talk again? Try to get some answers out of him. If he saw everything you did, he's got to know what's going on. She stands. Be right back. Rafa runs over to the school canteen. At this time, the chaos has settled. No more crowds fighting over food. Their running earlier had made them both super hungry, but Tom hadn't noticed. I don't think he'll say anything. That mage, she air quotes, seems like a complete idiot. From what you said, this isn't his first rodeo. And I bet mages live longer than regular people, so the guy must be ancient. Old people don't have patience for the same questions over and over. One of Susie's grandmas is pushing 100 and has zero patience, hence her view. Maybe. But it's all just too weird. You don't say, she mocks. Meanwhile, April is reading a book at one of the tables a few yards away. She can't hear what they're saying and she's not interested anyway, but her eyes keep drifting toward Tom every time she turns a page. That boy had never been interesting to her. To be fair, almost no boy is. But today her cousin's ex has something different, something that made her understand why Mandy had been with Tomas. April keeps trying to pinpoint what it is, that's something that made her stop reading. The question lingers in her mind for the rest of the break. Nothing about him is outwardly different. When the bell finally rings, April realizes what it was. His attitude had changed. For some reason, Tom seems more self-assured. Or so she thinks. If he managed to date Mandy, he couldn't be a nobody. He ought to have more self-respect. That's her conclusion. Tomas had finally climbed out of his pit, and now he thinks he's all that. At the same time, Mandy avoids going to the courtyard. She knows her reaction earlier wasn't really hers, so to avoid future embarrassment, she sticks near the courts, like she usually does. Her friends chat about school stuff, but she's not paying attention. She's busy messaging April on her phone, but her cousin isn't responding, which isn't all that unusual. What Mandy doesn't notice is that someone, or rather something, is watching her from afar.